Hello, today is December 5th, and we are going to be working on two major things today, all around our unit, the Civil War and Reconstruction. Sorry, the target and the vocab word are pretty long today. We'll start with the word first. That word is pronounced regiment, and regiment is how they would organize troops. During the Civil War, we still have regiments today, but I don't believe we ever organize men in 1,000 to 1,500 people anymore. We've changed, the style of fighting has changed. But during the Civil War, you needed lots of men. It was basically a war of whoever had the most men, because the more you had, the more shots that could be fired at your enemy, meaning that the more people you're likely to injure or kill. And most of the time, having more men allowed you to win battles. So a regiment was 1,000 to 1,500 people, and regiments were usually designated, like they had a name to them, and it was based on the state and then a number. So, for example, I have on here the 20th Maine. Or last year, you may have read the book Soldier's Heart by Gary Paulson, a really good historical fiction about one particular soldier from Minnesota who fought in the Civil War and his experiences. And he was from, if I'm not mistaken, the 1st Minnesota. So they basically just, whoever was the first group to go out, that got first, and then the second, and kind of continued like that. So think about a connection you might have. We still, units, not necessarily regiments, but units of like National Guard will have designations to them. And so think about like our armory that we have here in Alexandria. What do they call themselves there that are based out of that? So that might be a random connection. Or a movie you might have seen has a group of soldiers that has their call number, what they refer to themselves as, might be something as a random connection. Our target for today is to list which side is winning the Civil War based on where you're at in your battle map. So we're taking about the first 20 minutes to work on our battle map. And so I want you, after whatever point you end in today, I want you to think about who's winning, who has won most of the battles, who's controlled most of what you're reading about, and write down who's winning in your opinion based on where you're at in the battle map and why is what we're looking at. So that's our target for today, is to just think about who's winning at that point in the war, not necessarily who's going to win the whole thing or who should win, but who is winning at that point is where we're at. So let's get started on our battle map. So you're going to need your directions page, the major battles of the Civil War. You got this on Monday is when we started it. Now, if you don't have this sheet, I believe if you go into our current purple folder, there is right here, the directions page for the major battles of the Civil War. You can take a look at that. You will need the battle map portion though. If you don't have, and it looks like this right here, if you don't have that, you're going to have to wait and get that from me tomorrow. This is not something you can even print off. It's like on an 11 by 17 page. So what we did on Monday is we set up our key. You can see the key there with the one color for Confederate movement and Confederate victory, and another color for Union movement and victories. Remember, Confederate is south, Union is north. And then for most of us, I had asked everybody to do this step right here, to color in the Confederate States. And I'll go back to the directions, and you can see we had read about the Confederate attack on Fort Sumter. This is the last cause of the Civil War and the very first event of the Civil War. So we had read this together, and then most of us got to this part where on the map, color in those 7 states with a third color. And then we finished off right away at the beginning of class by coloring in the battle symbol at Fort Sumter to represent a Confederate victory, and then print or write April 1861 next to Fort Sumter. So what does that look like? On this map, it looks like this. I'll make it a little bit bigger so we can see it. You colored in the 7 states, and then right here is Fort Sumter. I colored in that battle symbol to show a Confederate victory, so with my red. And then I printed beside it April 1861. You can do that in colored pencil, you can do that in pencil, or as I did in pen. So that was the first step. And then we had about 15 more minutes to complete the next steps. I want you to read about the Battle of Bull Run. This is the first Battle of Bull Run, or Manassas, as it's also referred to. Typically more in the South is it referred to as that. I want you to read this part right here. This is information about the battle and how and what's happening early on into the war. And so you read that first, and then you do what it says on the map. So in box number 1, you're going to write April 1861. You're going to write that. Lincoln calls for 75,000 volunteers. You're going to print the word blockade on the map. You're going to color in with the same third color these 4 states. They also will join the Confederacy, leave the United States, and then color in the battle symbol at Bull Run to show July 1861. So I'll show you kind of what that should look like when you get that done. So here's where you printed it. Blockade can go anywhere around these ships because these are all northern ships and they are blockading. So a blockade means to block something. So they're not letting the South get any of their ships out with their cotton or to get ships in with weapons that they can use to fight the war. Up here is the first Bull Run. So you color in that battle symbol and then write July 1861. So from there, I expected that one to get done. And then also the war in the East. This is 1862 to 1863. So you have to read all of this. I know it's a bit to read. Take your time and then do what it says on the map. This is a lot of follow directions. Take your time. Make sure you're doing it correctly. And that's what I expected to get done today. We'll work on this again on Monday or Tuesday, and then we'll get 2 more sections done as well. I'm going to highly encourage that you read this. I know this feels long, but it's important to get a gist of how the war is flowing. We're not going over all of these battles. This is your way of learning about some of them. And so I want to make sure that that you're taking the time to understand it. Now, I did in our Schoology page, I did read for you these different sections. So if you want to listen to them, you sure can. So here they are, the readings for each of them for the major battles. And this is in the purple folder. After that, we started a reading on the Red Badge of Courage. And Red Badge of Courage is a book that was written way back in 1894 by Stephen Crane. I found out just recently he was not personally in the war, but he had seen other wars. And so here's what's on the back cover of the book. It's about a young Civil War recruit who joined the war for glory and to be a part of this, he had read books on battles and he wanted to be a part of it and experience the glory and that goes along with it. And so, but then the reality of war hits and it's not glorious and glamorous like books put it. And so his experience as a part of the Civil War. So this is actually what we are reading is in a play format. So it kind of summarizes many parts of the book. Today we got characters, and so that everybody got a character, not quite everyone, but many people did. And then for the most part, most classes made it through scene 1. So I would like you to read that as well. And the excerpt is right here, so you can read scene 1, and then in your notebook, answer those 3 questions. And the questions you can find right here in that slideshow, or right here as well. So read scene 1, answer those questions. You'll be all set for tomorrow. We're going to keep reading and hopefully then finish this play on the Red Badge of Courage. All right, if there's any questions, let me know. Otherwise, have a great day. I hope you're feeling better or whatever you're doing, and email me if you have anything. All right, have a good day. Bye.